Good morning. It is good to be here with you. In the slightly adapted words of our friend and colleague, the Reverend Peggy Clark, welcome to the thin space between the worlds, where the veil is transparent, where the wind blows across the border, where we can feel the breath of those on the other side. The margins have become fragile, and we can see the crack in the door between the worlds. In this thin space, we glimpse the faces of those who have gone before us, hear the spirits whisper our name, feel a wisp of hair on our cheeks, catch the scent of perfume slipping softly past us. We gather in this holy place where ancient stories are made new, where we rest in mystery and abide the call of the Spirit in companionship as we meet each other between worlds. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Schenectady and this Sunday worship service. I'm the Reverend Lynn Gardner. She and they pronouns are good for me. And along with Reverend Wendy Bartel, Wendy's name is better than pronouns for Wendy, we serve as the co-ministers of this congregation and are honored to preside over today's service, remembering our ancestors with grief and gratitude as our November theme. If you are visiting us for the first time today, we offer you an especially warm welcome.
This morning, we gather to remember those who have died, who have joined the ancestors. We remember, we grieve, and we give thanks. Come, let us worship together.
There is a myth that a person could be self-made, that any one of us could have come into being or be who we are today all on our own. How could that be? We who have our parents' eye or hair, our grandparents' sense of humor or work ethic, we who learned a sense of accountability or integrity around the dining room table or the neighborhood basketball court. How could we who were changed by a teacher, a neighbor, a mentor, a friend, we whose lives have been impacted by love and struggles, by losses, mistakes, and brilliance, and by the sheer grit and determination of others, how could any of us be self-made? Seems unlikely, if not impossible. And so we acknowledge all those who have helped us to become. To be clear, we don't always give thanks, but we do acknowledge. Because some of our ancestors, some of those who are part of our physical DNA or our religious tradition or our cultural heritage, our communities or our congregations, have done things that were harmful, that caused pain, and did things that were unjust. And so we do not give thanks for everything, but we do acknowledge. It may be tempting to deny that they are part of our ancestry, that you or we are part of their heritage. And denying the truth of our often complicated history will never allow us to fully heal or to address the legacies of shame, pain, and oppression that some of our ancestors put into motion. By acknowledging our ancestors, including the challenging ones, we can tell a more honest story of the past, preparing the way for a healthier, more just and equitable present, and maybe even a better future. Reckoning with rather than ignoring the past. We might imagine having conversations with them. If you have a grandfather, for instance, who said racist, sexist, or homophobic things, what would you say to him about what you have come to know and understand about people and about community? And we can acknowledge our relationship to someone who has died and still set boundaries. If one of your ancestors did things that caused harm or harmed someone you love, it is okay to acknowledge that history. It's also okay to let go of the burden of their memory, for it is not yours to hold anymore. Or maybe you're carrying some guilt or shame about something you did or didn't do for someone in your life who has died. You can also acknowledge that history, those choices. You can acknowledge the lessons that you have learned and then live into those lessons. You can offer an apology and do all you can to unhook from the burden of self-shaming. We also don't always know who our ancestors were. For people who were adopted or people who were stolen from their land or brought to another country and enslaved, may not know the names of any ancestors with whom they share DNA. Ancestors who were disappeared or colonized or forced to leave their homelands. Heritage can be hard to trace, especially when there's been intentional erasure of stories, lineages, language, and culture. And so we grieve for all that has been lost, that we do not know. Today, as we remember, we also honor the gifts, the lessons, and celebrate or at least acknowledge the full humanity of our ancestors. Later in the service, you will be invited into a ritual of remembrance. We can say their names. We will remember. They were not perfect. They were not saints. Though there is a tendency to only lift up the good when someone has died, there is no need to make folks out to be more or different than they were. We say at almost every memorial service, let's be honest with death. And today we add, let's be honest with our living and with our remembering. Along with honoring the gifts we may have received from our ancestors, we can also acknowledge the need for space and time for grief, and the need for care and support when we are going through hard and difficult times. Grief doesn't fit neatly into most of our schedules. It can demand too much time, too much energy, too much of our attention. It messes with our memory and our ability to focus. Other people, even those experiencing the same loss, don't have the same experience of grief, which can be confusing or downright frustrating. We can't pencil grief in on Tuesday morning or in that small gap on Thursday between 12 and 12:15. Instead, grief arrives when it will. Sometimes connected with a place, a smell, a song on the radio, the appearance of a rainbow, a butterfly, or a bird, or the ticket stub that we find in our pocket. It arrives with numbness, with overwhelm or denial. It shows up with racking sobs or quiet tears or a tightness in the chest. Grief arrives as anger, as frustration and rage. Grief can look like not getting out of bed or like rearranging everything in the house. There is no specific right or wrong way to grieve. There is just your way at this moment. And if you have not ever grieved the loss of your ancestors, today is an invitation to do so. If you have not ever grieved all that you lost connected with the COVID pandemic, because we all had losses of some type, this is your invitation to do so. If you have never grieved a loss of species or place or part of your history, this is an invitation to do so. When I was 10, my family started attending Camp Tuolumne, a family camp in the Sierra Mountains near Yosemite. Time there was a highlight of every summer. Our daughter swam and hiked and played there. Wendy and I got engaged there and celebrated with our extended family. And then in 2013, a hunter started a fire, which destroyed thousands of acres, including all of Camp Tuolumne. It was an accident, and it resulted in tremendous loss. Imagine a string of beads, just the weight and color and shimmer that would bring you some joy. Each bead is one of love. Now imagine that the first bead on that string is the first significant loss or death in your memory. A pet, a family member, a close friend, a cultural icon, or maybe it was a flood or a fire or a betrayal of trust. Every time you experience a death or loss after that, another bead is added. They're all connected. Each time a new bead or loss and grief is slipped onto the string, they find resonance with all the other beads there, especially those that are sticky, unresolved, or need extra attention. This isn't to say that grief is ever finished or complete or ready to be checked off on a to-do list. Grief doesn't work that way. And if we give each grief the time, care, and space it needs, depending on the way we've experienced the loss, it can still be part of our history, part of who we are. And at some point, it may not feel quite so sharp or heavy, quite so huge or overwhelming. Experiencing loss and feeling the sadness, anger, numbness, or denial that may arise doesn't mean that we are doing anything wrong. It just means we're human. Anytime we are brave enough to love, we risk experiencing loss. And there's just so much worth loving in this beautiful world, isn't there? Just today, just today, I have loved the sunrise and another day beginning with my beloved. I have loved coffee and autumn leaves and a sweet old dog. I have loved marigolds and young children's laughter and witnessing the care with which people placed photos and mementos on the altar. Isn't there so much to love? And so, if we dare to love this amazing world, including sometimes one another, then there may be times that those we care about will become ill or injured, and some will die, and those who have loved them immensely will be deeply sad, and we will want to help. So, what can we do that would actually be helpful? One thing we can do is remember the circles of care. There's a visual model for circles of care as shared by Susan Silk and Barry Goldman in a 2013 LA Times article. It is a series of concentric circles with a dot in the center for the person or persons who are most aggrieved or afflicted in a particular situation. They are in the center because in this case, it really is all about them, their loss, their experience. Around them are their closest family members or significant others. In the next circle out are close friends, close family members. Other circles might have colleagues, neighbors, people from the congregation who maybe don't know one another that well. Any of these folks might be feeling concern. On the outest circle is what they call the looky-loos, the people who are witness to the grief, but don't actually feel much sadness themselves. Any of them might be impacted by this loss. Remember how every loss is connected with all our other losses? That includes losses to which we are adjacent, yet also feel some grief. In any situation, our first task is to consider where we are in the circles of care. Whenever we're in contact with someone who is in the same or a smaller circle than we are in, we just offer care. Comfort in. And if we need support because we're worried or grieving and just need to process some of that, we need to seek someone who is further out in the circles of care. We dump out. Comfort in, dump out. That's one way we tend to caring for ourselves and one another. We offer comfort. We create space for grief. We offer presence and support even in the midst of deep heartbreak, loss, and sadness. Sometimes we may know that a great loss is approaching. Sometimes losses come without warning. This past summer, poet and spoken word artist Andrea Gibson and their wife Megan Faley knew that Andrea was coming near the end of their body's life. Neither wanted to deny the weight of this hard truth. After several years of cancer and a whole lot of love, Andrea was dying. Later that week, Meg, who is also a writer, wrote, "After Andrea's last breath, I kissed their cheek, which cooled faster than I imagined. I wrapped their quieted arms around me so that I could feel held by them one more time. Register this, I told myself. Memorize the exact weight of this goodbye." I think of the love and the courage in those actions and in that invitation to be conscious of the weight of our love and of our grief. Can you hear them? Can you hear the whispers of the ancestors? We remember. Their stories are in these walls, in our bones, in the air that we breathe. Their stories are in the touch of a calloused hand, in the melody of songs that we hum while washing the dishes. We remember faces. We hear the whispers of the ancestors. Their stories touch our lives and call us into becoming. May we become more caring, more loving, and more grateful. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
All around the northern hemisphere, as the weather grows colder and much of the harvest is finishing, and we wake up to frost, and deciduous trees are dropping their leaves, people for several centuries have created celebrations that honor the cycle of life and death. On Friday, many of us celebrated Halloween or All Hallows Eve or All Hallows Day, or the Celtic and or pagan holiday of Samhain. This weekend marks All Saints' Day, followed by All Souls' Day in the Catholic and some other Christian traditions. And in this part of the world, and today, even with the time change, we are headed into the darker time of the year. The days are growing shorter. There's a confluence of different cultures, different religious traditions that commemorate this time of year with festivals honoring those who have died. In many places, especially parts of Mexico, Dias de los Muertos, or Days of the Dead, are celebrated in the cemeteries and with families. The rituals and celebrations of this multiple day holiday are for making peace with death, recognizing that it is a part of the cycle of life. Gravestones are cleaned. Marigolds and favorite foods and beverages symbolically honor those who have died. Decorated sugar skulls and creations of skeletons enacting things they did in life are plentiful. Because the reality is that death is as close as our own bones. And life and love are as near as our heartbeat, as our breath. One of the reasons why people come together in religious community is to make some sense out of our experiences, to find some meaning in this journey of our lives, or to be with one another when it seems that there is just no sense or meaning to it at all. And we are certainly bearing witness to a lot of nonsense in our nation. One of the gifts of community is that we can be a space for holding some of our shared memories. And that by risking being with one another, risking sharing with one another our joys, our hopes, our losses, our fears, and our grief. And then we don't have to hold these all on our own. When someone we love dies, we are often overwhelmed, sometimes by numbness or sorrow that feels bigger than we can bear. And our grief may not be lessened by time or by community, at least not at first. But it might just become a little more bearable. The pain of loss can feel overwhelming, and it can be hard to reach out. And it is also okay to ask someone to just be with you, to take care of a few things, to bring a meal, to walk the dog or watch the kids. And it can be really challenging to reach out to someone who has just lost a loved one because we don't want to intrude or bother them. If we are close to them, we might reach out in all the ways that we can. But if we're not as close, maybe you can just drop off a note or send a card. Bring by flowers a week or two after, because most of the care happens right after the loss. Then in a couple of weeks, when all of that settles, so too does the loss settle more fully into our bones. Often when we need other people most, and when it becomes hardest to ask. When grief is large and sharp, or so heavy that it is difficult to breathe, joy can seem impossibly far away. And often, though not always, as time passes and our lives move forward, the pain may begin to ease. We may find some comfort in memories shared by ourselves or by others. And if the relationship was harmful, we might find comfort in the permission to forget, to let go. As Reverend Lynn said, there's no one right way to grieve, just as there is no one right way to honor our ancestors. But not giving ourselves the opportunity to express our feelings, however complex they may be, is often not helpful. So today we're leaning in. And we invite you to lean in too, to let yourself choose how to remember or to let someone go, and to give thanks for the gifts they gave, and or to heal the ways their memory no longer serves you. The Reverend Kathleen McTeague wrote these words, and at the end, you will be invited to speak the names of those aloud who have died, who you want to remember today. Those of you on Zoom are welcome to type names into the chat. They are with us still. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love may evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living. Let us now name those who have died but live on in our hearts, those who are with us still. We remember them. I share these words from our colleague, Reverend Lynn Cox, making room for all that is. Spirit of life, ancestor of the stars and the sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us today. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of shifting light and dark. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn us toward one another in mercy, right relationship, and reconciliation. You have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations. Remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us understand our interdependence, our gravitational relatedness with all of the other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with care. In this space filled with the people among us who shine like stars, this space filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment to be together. May our senses be open to the beauty of this day, this season, this world.